So guys, how is your year going so far? Well, I can tell you that the feedback I've been getting from all my clients is that it's been a difficult one, that the Christmas period was fairly frustrating and so many people had difficulty connecting with their men. Either their men were moody, unresponsive, or brand new relationships happening on apps had gone into reverse. The guy was either ghosting, making excuses, not picking up. And in general, it just seemed relationships had hit a brick wall. In some cases, women particularly were feeling, let me just chill out by myself. I don't need this nonsense. I just want to be, chilled. I just want to relax and I want to detach and just have me time. And that was really a good thing. So the energies for relationships now are so complex and difficult. Why? Because men are particularly touchy, defensive, unresponsive, and moody. They're so hot and cold, and they're changing their kind of attitudes all the time, and they're not letting you into their inner feelings. They've gone into this kind of backwards looking, reverse gear emotionally. They don't want to share, they don't want to reach out, and they're not really open to having rational discussions. They prefer to get on with something in their own lives, distract, and this avoidance tendency that many men have has just been exacerbated. So with the Mars retrograde in Leo opposite Pluto, it was particularly intense over Christmas, New Year, and a lot of people felt kind of tearful, like they had to shed, release, and get rid of stuff and just indulge in a little bit of anger, perhaps a little bit of morose, some self-pity for a brief time, or just a little bit of, understanding, like, am I happy with the situation? Just some soul searching and being totally honest with yourselves. Now remember, if you can't be honest with yourself, who can you be honest with? So give yourself that indulgence. Don't judge yourself and don't criticize yourself just because you're feeling certain types of emotions. I know a lot of people out there talk about, positive frame of mind, positive thoughts, positive projection, but that leads to denial. And sometimes it's very important to be in touch with rancid, troubling, volcanic emotions within us, because when we're honest with them, it's so much easier to just release them or to kind of analyze them and find out what our triggers are and why we're really feeling this way. How are we feeling about our relationships? Are we satisfied? Do we need to change our approach, or do we need to have more boundaries? In many cases, we need to take better care of ourselves and to expect better in relationships. But sometimes you can't always push your men in that direction in January because they are like brick walls and they're not particularly malleable. So it's a very hard time to have constructive relationship discussions. That's why you deal with things internally. Have the conversation with yourself, and at least you will begin to understand what you want. And when the the weather forecast for relationships improves, as it will in February, you can then have those discussions in a calm, rational way, because you've kind of already been through all the stuff that you got going on inside, and you'll likely get a result out of your partner. What you don't want to do right now is to let it all spew out, because sometimes when things come out in a very dramatic, random, or over-emotional way, guys are turned off. And they just back off more because they're backing off now anyway, for various reasons, because they don't know their feelings. They feel a little bit vulnerable. And sometimes they just don't want any extra responsibility because they're feeling kind of stressed out. So the last thing you want to do is bombard them with your emotions and your needs. So your needs count, but you need to deal with them inside. Get them kind of organized and prioritized so that when you can have better discussions and move relationships into the kind of communication mode, you know how to lay it all out in a way that he's going to understand. Because remember, men have a short attention span. You kind of got to go in there. They don't have time for messing around, so you can't really have a huge build up to what you want to say. You kind of got to get to the point, and maybe afterwards, after the fallout, you can smooth it over and understand more what's going on. So the good news is Mars is at least in Cancer now, so it won't be opposite Pluto. So the kind of energies aren't as toxic, angry, frustrated, and upsetting, but it is still retrograde in Cancer, meaning everything has to be approached very diplomatically. On the, I think it's the 24th of February, it goes direct. But the other major event in February is right at the beginning on the 4th. Jupiter finally goes direct in Gemini, and that's a huge boon for all sorts of communication, getting a bit more humor going into the relationships, having some more fun, and feeling a little bit like things have lifted, feeling more lighthearted. So I know a lot of people in the Northern Hemisphere get kind of happy in February, more daylight hours, and Jupiter is a little bit more like that. It's the feeling of seeing more sunshine, feeling more warmth, just tending to feel optimistic within, like, well, things are going to get better. The ideas and the inspiration is coming to me, and there's a positive momentum building. So let's look forward to that. January definitely gets better from now, but we don't want to launch into, top gear or anything. It's still a case of being patient, being persistent, and working on ourselves. Take care, guys.